What's going on, guys? Play-by-play gamer here, back with another Epic 7 video. Today we're looking at the dev notes just released on 9/18/2020. So if I were you, I would treat this more like a podcast, sit back and just enjoy. It's a lot of text, so I'll try to break it down as simply as possible. But the good thing is they're giving us a summary right here on the #1 balance adjustment section. We're getting quite a bit of heroes here that are getting some adjustments made to them. So we got one 5-star Moonlight hero. We got Silverblade Aramintha. So she used to be broken and then they nerfed her, and then now they're gonna buff her again. So that's gonna be interesting to see. We got Kise, Ravi coming in with some more buffs. Ken, your boy Ken, he hasn't been shown any love at all for a very long time. Shadow Rose, that one is interesting. Kitty Clarissa, General Purgus, which I've seen a lot of people build on counter. Now he has something special that I think is going to make him very viable in RTA. And then we got Celeste, 3-star Moonlight hero. And of course, because why doesn't Charles need more balance, right? 5-star Covenant hero Charles, exclusive equipment, getting a buff. All right, let's take a look. So we got Silverblade Aramintha, 5-star Moonlight hero. So before her flame release, attacks all enemies, and this is her passive, attacks all enemies with Mystic Fire Energy, increasing the caster's combat readiness by 20%. And then now it attacks all enemies with Mystic Fire Energy with a 60% chance to burn for 1 turn before increasing the caster's combat readiness by 25%. So when she releases her passive, now she has a chance to burn on her passive. So I think before she got nerfed, she had like a 3-turn burn, and now it's been reduced. It was like, what, I think like 3-turn burns or something crazy. But now she has an extra chance to burn on her passive, and she has an increased combat readiness. I think that's pretty decent. Meteor Fall, so her S3, it drops a giant meteor with a 50% chance to inflict 2 burn effects for 2 turns. So there you go. Now it drops a giant meteor on all enemies, making them unhealable for 2 turns. So now she has unhealable before a 50% chance to inflict 2 burns. So not only does she have a burn on her passive, she has 2 burns on her S3. So that's a total of 3 burns. So they kind of put her back to where she was before, although she has unhealable for 2 turns on her S3. So, and now she gets 3 souls from that. Meteor Fall Awakened, and so the awakening makes it unhealable for 2 turns. That's pretty strong. So Silverblade Aramintha was designed to be a hero that could lead your team to victory thanks to the advantages she granted her team through the debuffs Stun and Burn, which can be inflicted on the enemy via Meteor Fall. So they reduced the utility of that skill because they nerfed her, yeah, and then nobody used her, right? So with the upcoming change, the debuff Unhealable would be added to Meteor Fall, allowing her to effectively respond to heroes with healing effects. This upcoming change also increases the chance that her stun debuff will be preserved. So I'm assuming it's going to be unhealable and then stun. So whenever you cleanse, it's going to be, you're going to be cleansing unhealable instead of stun, right? That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, so unhealable will add another debuff that can be removed instead of stun. And then additionally, a 60% chance to inflict burn for 1 turn has also been added to Flame Release. This change is expected to allow SBA to inflict even more damage on the enemy and compensate for the skill cooldown of Meteor Fall. So her skill cooldown, it got increased when she got nerfed, and so not many people used her. But now that she gets a burn, she's getting her 3rd burn back on her passive. That's going to be really interesting, really interesting. Excited to test her out. I pulled her on that 70 free pools, so we're going to see. We're going to try to build her. All right, moving on. Kise. All right, so I've seen gameplay of Kise, and she is incredibly strong against buffs. All right, so let's see what they do. So her Dark Scar before attacks all enemies with a scythe. I think this is her S2. Penetrates defense by 60% when the caster is stealth. Now it attacks all enemies with scythe, penetrates enemy defense by 30%, and by an additional 30% when the caster is stealth. So that's kind of interesting. So no matter what now, she doesn't rely on buffs. So the enemy team doesn't have to be buffed for her to penetrate defense. So I think that's really, really strong. And then, oh no, she has to be stealth. Okay, so no matter what, even if she's not stealth, she's gonna penetrate defense by 30%. So that's pretty huge. Now, when she is stealth, she gets an additional 30%. So that's actually pretty good. So now that can make her viable as another DPS single target nuke, right? Even on an AoE, that's attacks all enemies. That's pretty intense. Okay, so Nocturne before leaps toward the enemy to attack, becoming stealth for 2 turns. A critical hit will also grant a barrier to the caster for 2 turns, and barrier strength increases proportional to the caster's attack. Damage dealt is proportional to the caster's current health. So after her buff, she is going to leap towards the enemy to attack, grants the caster stealth and barrier for 2 turns, before increasing combat readiness by 50%. So she's gonna get a 50% push on her Nocturne. So she can go, I think this is her S3, right? She's gonna go S3 into S2, like right away, something like that. Damage dealt, so barrier strength increase proportional to the caster, damage dealt increase proportional to the caster's current health. Okay, so I think that's what they want to do with that, right? Yeah, and then just the awakening. So let's take a look here. After using her skill Nocturne, Kise was able to survive in battle due to the stealth effect. She was then able to use Dark Scar in order to inflict high damage onto her enemies. However, it was challenging to set this combination up as it was difficult to maintain stealth for a long period of time. Yeah. So with her upcoming changes, Kise will now increase her combat readiness by 50% after using Nocturne, so that she can effectively utilize her stealth buff before it's removed by the enemy. So she'll go into stealth with her S3, get a 50% push, and then they want you to be able to go again with her S2, right? In conjunction with the previous change, the increased skill cooldown effect of Nocturne will be changed so that it applies 2 times in a turn, so that Kise can better respond to enemies' effect resistance. So wait, what? Her increased skill cooldown. Let's see, where is that? I don't know. Barrier strength, damage dealt. I don't know, I didn't see that there. If you see it, let me know. It's too much text here. All right. Finally, her skill, Dark Scar, will always be able to penetrate some of the enemy's defense, kind of like what we discussed. And when she's stealth, will provide additional defense penetration. Through this change, the skill's usability will be improved so that even if she's not stealth, she's going to do damage, right? She's going to do a good chunk of damage. So I think definitely usable now if you have her with that 50% CR push. I would say like 8 lots into her, she'll go get 50% combat readiness and then be able to go 1 more time. It reminds me of Lilibet's S2, right? She, with her S2, she gains like 50% combat readiness. So that's kind of interesting. All right, Ravi is another one. She just recently got an exclusive equipment, and let's see. So her S1 is just attacks and she absorbs health. Her buff, now she's going to attack with a 35% chance to stun on her S1, right? Before absorbing some of the damage dealt. So she has pretty much like what? Like the same chance to stun as Abyssal Crown, right? Something like that. Like an Abyssal Crown on her S1. All right. Increased attack of the caster when they attack or attack. This is her passive, right? Effect can only stack up to 5 times. When attacked, increases combat readiness by 15% and 5 fighting spirit is acquired. So now increases the caster's attack by 15% and effectiveness by 10%. So they're increasing her effectiveness so that she can land this stun, right? So now she's going to be very viable in maybe control teams, control bruiser teams. Is that a thing? Is that going to be a thing now? So yeah, due to the difficulty of gearing Ravi, players have found it challenging to utilize key advantages of Devil Drive, yeah, because her S3 stuns, but you need effectiveness in order to stun, right? And she's not going to stun on high effect resist targets. So giving her a chance to stun on her S1, and it's increasing her effectiveness every time she gets hit. Yeah, it's going to be pretty bad. With this buff, not only will the attack for Demon's Blood be increased, but it will also provide an increase in effectiveness. Yeah, allow her to better respond to enemies' effect resistance. Yeah. So when using Slaughter, a stun debuff will be added with the addition of the increased effectiveness via Demon's Blood. and you're going to be able to create more advantageous situations in battle. So yeah, it's giving her a better place, and now you don't have to build her with that much effectiveness, right? Because if this stacks up 5 times, you're getting 50% effectiveness. And I mean, even if you build her, like she's not gonna stun a Ruel or Momo or anything like that, right? But now you can allocate those stats into her HP, defense, attack, crit chance, crit damage, right? Speed, unless you have her on counter. But I think I mean, you could definitely build her with 0 effectiveness, right? When you start off, and then once she ramps up, or maybe with a little bit, I'm sure you get like 20% effectiveness there just by, RNG on gear. But hey, I mean, that definitely makes her viable for this for those stunts. So I think that's gonna be pretty interesting to see in RTA. All right, moving on. Ken is getting some buffs. He hasn't been touched in quite a while. I think when he first came out, I wasn't playing the game back then, but when he first came out, he got a buff, I think, to his S2, something like that. And then now he's getting another buff. Hopefully this will make him viable for RTA. Right? So attacks with a flurry of strikes. This is S1, right? Yeah. S1 or S2? Knockout? No, the kick is the S2. Phoenix Flurry S3. Okay. S1 has a 35% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. Burns for 2 turns when he has Vigor. So he gets Vigor on his S3. Let's see. Now he has a 50% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. Burns the enemy for 2 turns when the caster is granted Vigor. Okay, so now he has a 50% chance to decrease defense on his S1. That's, I think that's a significant increase, right? 50-50 a shot that he lands a decreased defense for 2 turns. It's not a 1-turn defense break. It's a 2-turn defense break. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. All right, Celeste will kick his S2, which many of you are familiar with his ML counterpart, is that kick in the face that you get when ML can counters, right? This is it. This is his S2. Kicks the enemy, increasing speed of the caster for 2 turns with a 75% to decrease defense. Yeah, that was the thing. He only has a 75% chance to defense break without Vigor, right? And so when he does his S3, he gets the buff Vigor, and he has a 100% chance to decrease defense, and he ignores effect resistance when he has Vigor, which is, I mean, it's kind of cool to guarantee you landing that defense break, but it's pretty much useless when you don't have Vigor, right? So after it kicks the enemy, decreasing defense for 2 turns before granting the caster increased speed for 2 turns. So now there is no Vigor condition. Gains 40 fighting spirit when an enemy is defeated. When the caster is granted Vigor, ignores effect resistance damage dealt. Okay, so now it's always 100% chance to decrease defense. And when he has Vigor buff, he's just gonna ignore effect resistance. So I think that's pretty good. They removed this conditioning, the 75% chance, that RNG there. Now it's 100% chance. And it's the same thing with him. You need some effectiveness on him, right? If you want to land his debuffs without Vigor. But now when he does his S2, he's going to gain 40 fighting spirit. And that's pretty insane, just because of his S3, right? So his S3 delivers a powerful blow after a flurry of strikes, stunning for 1 turn. So he stuns for 1 turn and grants Vigor to the caster for 4 turns before gaining 15 fighting spirit. Damage dealt increases proportionally to the caster's max health. Caster begins the first battle with 50 fighting spirit and gains 5 fighting spirit when attacked. So the thing about his S3 is it ramps up. He's one of those heroes where, like Charlotte, he needs to get hit in order to get fighting spirit. Just like Ravi needs to get hit in order to get fighting spirit to kind of ramp up. His cooldown before was 5 turns, and then he needed 100 fighting spirit in order to use his S3. But now they reduced it to a 4-turn cooldown, aiding fighting spirit. So that means that when you S2, he's going to be just 50 fighting spirit away from 40 fighting spirit away from doing his S3, right? So now it delivers a powerful blow After a flurry of strikes, stunning for 1 turn, so the stun's still there, grants vigor to the caster for 3 turns. So now instead of 4 turns, they reduced it to 3. Damage dealt increases portion of the caster's max health, starts the battle with 50 fighting spirit, and gains 5 fighting spirit when attack. So that means that when he's starting the battle with his S3 already, pretty much. I mean, if you take a look here, well, no, okay, so he's getting 40 fighting spirit when you S2, but he's getting 50 fighting spirit at the start of the battle. So that means that if you S2 on the first turn, on his next turn, he's gonna have his S3 up already, as opposed to S2ing before S2ing, and then getting another turn, not having the S3 up, waiting to get hit, coming back, and then finally getting your Phoenix Flare, your S3. So now this is on also a 4-turn cooldown, which is gonna make him almost S3 like every 2 turns? Every two to 3 turns, something like that. That's pretty crazy. Okay, so delivers a powerful blow after. Okay, so this is the same thing, right? Is it the same thing? Let's see. It says awakened after. So okay, this is where you get your 3 turns, right? The 3 turns, the vigor for 3 turns, damage now increased portion of the caster's max health. Starts the first battle with 50 fighting spirit, gains 5 fighting spirit when attacked. So let's take a look at his little summary here. First, the decreased defense, probably his S1 will be increased, and his skill 2 celestial kick also had his decreased defense chance improved, 100% without the conditional requirement of vigor. Yeah, we kind of talked about that. Let's see here. We have decreased the amount of fighting spirit required for Phoenix Flare by 20, as well as reduced the cooldown. Skill is going to be used more frequently. Yeah, I mean, it makes them definitely viable for sure in like GBG, where you need those turns to S3 to be able to S3. I think that's gonna be pretty interesting. Okay, moving on. Shadow Rose. Okay, Shadow Rose is pretty interesting because I know before a lot of people were using her in like one-shot teams, so I'm kind of interested to see, you know, what her changes. Okay, so Spear of Darkness before, nothing. Now, Soul Burn. Skill cooldown is decreased by 2 turns. So she's getting a soul burn on her S3, I think. Is this her S3? No. Her S1. I'm not sure. I think it's her S3. Either that or it's this one. Attacks all enemies with the portent of destruction, decreasing enemies' combat readiness by 2. Okay, this is her S3. And Spear of Darkness is her S1, I'm assuming. Attacks the enemies with the portent of destruction, decreasing their combat readiness by 25%. Increases effectiveness of the caster for 2 turns. So she's getting increased effectiveness so that she can defense break, right? One of them she AoEs. I gotta figure it out here, and we'll find out here. One of them she AoEs, one of them she defense breaks. So she's getting increased effectiveness and for 2 turns, so that means that's definitely going to make her viable for one-shot teams. So she AoEs, right? Like in Banshee, she's going to AoE, she's going to get increased effectiveness, and then now she's going to be able to defense break, because I think she has 100% defense break. Is it 80 or 100%? Let's find out. Shadow Rose's skill Goddess of Ruin contained a problem where the combat readiness reduction was translated as singular. This text will be corrected. There are no functional changes. What? Okay. Improvements will be made to Shadow Rose through Soul Burn effect so that she can utilize decreased defense that is triggered by Spear of Darkness more frequently. When you use Soul Burn, this skill cooldown of Spear of Darkness is decreased by 2 turns, and with every turn, the enemy's defense can be continuously decreased. Yeah, so it's gonna make her really interesting, that defense break. So you can kind of go defense break every other turn, something like that, if you Soul Burn, right? Also, the Soul Burn that increased damage dealt for Goddess of Ruin will now be transferred to Spear of Darkness. The basic damage dealt by Goddess of Ruin will be increased. Additionally, if you use the Goddess of Destruction, the increased effectiveness will be applied to the caster for 2 turns, making it easier to reduce defense even if you're up against enemy with high effect resistance. So I didn't really use her. I have her, but I don't use her too much. I've seen a lot of gameplay of her used in mainly PvE, not so much PvP anymore, just because she has that guaranteed defense break and that combat readiness push. So now I'm interested to see, how she's gonna do. So I guess we'll see there. Kitty Clarissa, a hero you don't really see often in PvP. You do see her in Holo Trials. I use her in Holo Trials, and let's see. So now, Meow, I'm angry. Before, her Soul Burn increases damage dealt, and now her Soul Burn ignores effect resistance. Okay, so Kitty Clarissa Cleave incoming, maybe? I don't know, we'll see. The damage increase effect for Kitty Clarissa's skill Meow I'm Angry will be changed to ignore effect resistance. The Dark Elemental hero Kitty Clarissa will be adjusted so that she can reliably reduce the enemy's buff for 2 turns and make them unhealable at the same time, regardless of elements. So her S2, she hits you with an AoE, and I think it hits you with unhealable, right? It's just 1 debuff. Unhealable for 2 turns, and it cleanses your team. So her S2 has a cleanse? No, what? Let's see, the Dark Elemental hero kit will be adjusted so that she can reliably reduce enemies' buff for 2 turns and make them unhealable. Okay, so she reduces their buffs for 2 turns. She cleanses on her S3. It's like a partial cleanse on your team. And then when she does her S2, she reduces their buffs by 2 turns and makes them unhealable. So if they got if she's your opener, you go with her S2, burn, she's gonna clear off that immunity and then hit them with unhealable, right? If that's what you wanted to do. I don't know. I don't see many Celeste around. Let's see what she has. Shoots a volley of arrows at all enemies with a 50% chance to decrease combat readiness by 20%. Shoots a volley of arrows at with an 85% chance to decrease combat readiness. So she has an 85% chance to decrease combat readiness by 20%. So it's almost 100%. It's almost 100% chance to reduce combat readiness by 20%. And she's getting increased damage dealt. I don't know what that's gonna do. I'm interested to see that. Okay, Celeste was designed as a hero who, with her high speed, can continuously reduce combat readiness, but it was difficult to use her because she had a really low chance, yeah. Therefore, with this adjustment, we improved Corrosive Volley by increasing the effect chance and dealing more damage. So, can make her viable, maybe, and control teams, just constantly pushing the enemy back, something like that. Okay, Charles, okay. His exclusive equipment, so he's not getting a direct buff, but his exclusive equipment is getting a buff. So dispels all debuffs inflicted on the caster after using Faithful Strike. So after he hits you with his S3, he cleanses. But now they reworked it to it cleanses before he does Faithful Strike. It's a small change, but I think that it's gonna make the choice of using this EE a little bit better. I mean, I don't know if I would go with the chance to proc his S1 into S2 EE over this, but I think this makes it a little bit more viable if, like in RTA, you know that you're going to go into a lot of control teams. And I mean, let's say you wanted to bring a Charles, but you don't want to bring Cleanse. His S3 now, let's say he gets hit with Dizzy, whatever, all those debuffs. If you have his S3 up and he's not abyssal, he's going to be able to cleanse and actually deal damage, right? He won't miss because of the blind debuff, and he'll still hit with full damage because he won't have that decreased attack. So I think this can definitely give people who use Charles in RTA another choice, right, as to how they want to kind of bring him into the team. I'm thinking that maybe if you build him counter, if you already have him built counter, this might be an option for you. Maybe on defense even, like GVG, but I don't know, we'll see. So following the adjustment mentioned above, Charles will have the ability to change the option. Yeah, we kind of talked about the exclusion has been changed to retain on existing stats. Yeah, so it's just kind of changing before he hits you. He's gonna cleanse, kind of like Cerise, right? No. Who's the auntie, right? Who's the auntie? the ant that hits you with the sword, whatever her name is, she hits you with her S3, but she cleanses first, right? And that's really big. So the schedule for this balance adjustment has been changed to October 8th. So we ask our players understanding, as stated in our Epic Together event, we know that heirs care about Epic 7. We'll do our best to ensure that you can use various heroes for a long time. And the opinions of our heirs, which are delivered through us, each community, are very important. So there's that. Hopefully, you know, these, I mean, they weren't huge. I think it's like a lot of minor things, right? So you got the health scaling on G-Purg, you got increased effectiveness on Shadow Rose. Ken, I think, got a big buff. I'm curious to see him in RTA. Ravi buff, yeah, she has a chance to stun and burn if you use her EE. She's getting increased effectiveness, so it makes that burn a lot more, maybe even reliable, right? If you build her like really high attack. Kise was already OP. Not many people using her, but now that she's guaranteed to penetrate defense, yeah, I can definitely see her getting some play. Silverblade Aramintha, yeah, I'm definitely almost 99% sure she's going to be seen a lot more in RTA just because of that extra burn. Now you get 3 burns. It's going to make her really, really interesting. So hopefully, you know, you guys started thinking about, you know, which of these heroes might become, you know, one of the new meta heroes. Some of them are really, I think, really got some interesting buffs. Nothing major. Of course, there's no haste. There's no Luna buff. But Silverblade Aramintha, I know a lot of people have been, not many people, but she has been, you know, left out of the meta when she got nerfed. Some people have been wanting a slight buff for her. I think it's an interesting buff. Hopefully she sees some play, you know, kind of shakes things up a bit here and there. But I mean, immunity is still present. Cleanse is still kind of everywhere. You know, now with ML Crow giving everybody immunity, I'm not sure how viable she's going to be, but you know, we'll see. All right, guys, that's going to be the end of the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you happen to enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts on these balance adjustments. Let me know if any of these heroes you have and are planning to use or build. If you happen to enjoy the video, think about subscribing. It definitely helps the channel grow and reach more people like you who like content like this. Like always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.